We're recording.
Hello, everyone. Is Janet here?
I haven't seen Janet come back yet, but as soon as she does,
Okay.
I will bump her to the top and spotlight her.
Great. So happy New Year, everyone. This is our first event. I mean, this is our first tech event for this year, and the topic is cybersecurity is everyone's job. And it's good to get questions before even we start the session. So that way we make sure that we tailor our conversation to answer your questions. So today is, again, it's thriving in tech, and cybersecurity is everyone's job. That's what everyone is talking about. So today, I'll introduce the panelists, and then we'll have questions. We'll answer questions. There are some prepared questions. We'll also take questions from audience, and then there will be breakout. So that's our agenda for today. And so why did we come up with this topic as the first topic? So we all know that cyber threats and data breaches, they are increasing, and cybersecurity has become everyone's problem. So today we'll discuss the knowledge of security you must acquire to keep your teams, products, and companies secure, regardless of your role, whether you are a business director, business professional, project manager, program manager, regardless of your role. What should you know? And okay, so why should you acquire cybersecurity knowledge? What should you know? How do you get this knowledge? Where can you find this knowledge? And who can you approach in your company or maybe outside to get this knowledge? And then when is now? This is good time to acquire this knowledge, no matter what your role is in your company. So it's my pleasure to introduce the panelists. Janet brings more than 23 years of professional experience, and more than 22 years is in IT, aerospace, and defense industry. She is in program management, responsible for internal IT auditing, compliance, system continuity plans, disaster recovery, risk assessment, and cybersecurity related projects. She has worked in various IT functions, from technical support, mobile support, planning administration, project management, and IT data security. She has been a WITI ambassador and leader for more than 7 years, advocating and supporting women in tech. So she's going to share the LinkedIn URL. So if you have any questions, if after the session also, please feel free to reach out to her. And same is for Cynthia. Cynthia is Senior Director of Information Security at Coupa Software. She started out in infrastructure operations, building telecom systems. So she has been in diverse roles. Wow, managing a hotel, assisting surgeons in Iraq, and apprenticing as a painter in Italy. Wow, you've traveled a lot, providing a unique, colorful perspective to tech and security. Coming from a non-traditional security background, that has given Cynthia a true leverage to better emphasize with clients the needs to speak their language. Again, she's going to put her LinkedIn URL, so feel free to reach out to her even after this session. And me, so I am Senior Vice President of Executive Programs and Sales Enablement at WITI. I am passionate about cybersecurity, and I have just finished writing a book, Cybersecurity for Project Managers, which we are working on the launch, and we'll be launching it in March. Okay, so is Janet there? Think maybe some problem, but yeah, we'll get. No, Jeff, I'm going to send you her.
I sent her an email. I'm not sure where she is right now. She should be back.
Okay, perfect. And I'll share her phone number with you. Okay, so let's get started. So as per now, cybersecurity is topmost priority for CIOs and also for board. So I was just going through this CIO report last week, and number 1 priority was cybersecurity. Number 3 was digitization, and number 7 was privacy. So cybersecurity is at top, and we all know that there is skills shortage plaguing many companies. So at this point, there are 3.5 million unfilled cybersecurity jobs. And CISOs say that now cybersecurity is not just the problem of IT, it's like everyone's job. So we would like to get the thoughts of the panelists or experts whom we have today with us. So Cynthia, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think everybody in the room has seen the news lately, where we have an increasing number of not only breaches, but flaws in the fundamental fabric of our software and our interconnected systems. I'll use Log4j as an example. This is a very small piece that is integrated into so many different pieces of software and so many servers and so many monitoring systems. In fact, everybody in the chain in a software, hardware, or IT company has to come together to fix problems like this. Another example is when we see ransomware out there. Ransomware very rarely targets IT security organizations. They generally target organizations that have very little to do with IT, like hospitals and schools. It really behooves people in all areas of technology and all areas of business to have a working knowledge of cybersecurity in order to better detect and then defend against these sorts of things.
Yeah, I was on mute, sorry. Yeah, that's right. So it is like with all these attacks which you mentioned, right? It's really important to know about cybersecurity and defend the organizations. So we talked about cybersecurity, but like what has, and your role as security champion in your company, like how did you go about it, and what made you feel like, what was, how did that initiative come in place? Would you like to share your insights on that?
In my last organization, I implemented a program called Security Champions. What the Security Champions program does is it gives technical security training to non-security individuals, such as engineers on the infrastructure team or developers in the product teams. What we did was we paid for and sent for training these individuals to the global IT security organizations to take a incident handling and anti-hacking class for the infrastructure engineers, as well as a highly technical web penetration test certification course to the application developers. What that did for them is in their day job, they are now given an extra tool in their tool chest to see through the eyes of a security offensive minded attacker. And in that case, they can take their knowledge, their deep and broad knowledge in their day job, and use this additional tool to identify potential areas of concern. As a result, application code is better written. It's more securely written. Infrastructure is built with more resilience in mind. It's built with tighter coupling of operational risk management and IT security risk management. And both are integrated better with the security team because both recognize how adaptable our adversaries are.
That's right, yeah. And so we are talking about like various roles now, like legal department, definitely developers, product managers, project managers, acquiring the right knowledge. So how should they get started about it? Like where should they go to get this knowledge?
You know, interestingly enough, there are so many free and also paid courses to get technical and also an overall security practitioner's knowledge. There are certifications out there that speak broadly to the subject of cybersecurity, but there are easier, smaller steps as well. For example, LinkedIn Learning offers a number of paths in IT security, and you can just type in cybersecurity or IT security and a number of courses come up. That's a low-hanging fruit kind of way. There are many blogs out there. There is a cloud guru for cloud-based security practice. And there are also certification programs that are globally recognized that oftentimes your organization will support if you speak to your training department.
That's great. Thank you. So I know Cloud Guru, LinkedIn Learning, and what else? Am I missing something? Those are the places to go to.
Those are two very good places. The internal training department in your organization is another place. There are several blogs on security that continuously bring up topics of interest. A Hackaday brings up, if you're technical, brings up a technical examination of different cybersecurity exploits and how to defend against them. There are more. Those are just a few off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Yeah, Janet is back. So Janet, we were talking about, as why. Hey, Janet.
I apologize, technical difficulties. I'm standing on my phone now, so apologize.
No problem. So we were talking about, yes, like cybersecurity is everyone's job. Now it's not just CISO who will take care, CISO and his or her organization who will take up care of cybersecurity. It's like everyone has to know. So now, like we know that this everyone has to know, but how can anyone get started? So for example, if I'm a business leader, where can I get this information to arm myself with the knowledge? And same for product managers or project managers, developers, where should they go to get this knowledge?
Yeah, I highly recommend there's obviously books you can read. You can also do a lot of research on your own on Google. But for me, I really like the NIST document. For those who are not familiar with NIST, it's National Institute of Technology, and it has a lot of different various documents. So for security and privacy, you can turn to 800-53. It lists all the different security controls and framework that you can follow and get to know. And there's also special publication 800-171 talks about the assessment security, what you need to do. So there's a lot more, but those are the two that I would like to mention for now. But definitely the NIST documentation, I highly recommend you to Google it. Just Google NIST, you'll see a whole bunch of different documents, and you can definitely learn from those.
Great. NIST documentation, right? That's what you mentioned.
Yes.
800-53, and also one more thing that was
800-171.
800-171.
Yeah,
okay.
Thanks, Cynthia, for putting in the chat. Yeah, National Institute of Technology is right there, she mentioned.
Great, awesome, perfect. So there is like cybersecurity, we know there's also this word information security. So what's the difference between these two, information security and cybersecurity? Janet, would you like to go first?
Sure. So a lot of people do get the two mixed up. There's actually a difference. So cybersecurity is considered a subset of information security. Now, back in the old days when there was no computers yet, it's all information security. What kind of information you have, from physical, locking up information in a cabinet, it's all any types of information, you need to secure it. Once we had a computer, and now everything is digitalized, we got smart devices, IoT devices, cybersecurity exploded. So cybersecurity is more dealing with electronics, making sure it's unauthorized access is secure, and people who are not supposed to access electronically, they don't access it. And information security is really more than just the digital, but is more general and broad. And cyber is all more electronically and digital information.
That's right. And Cynthia has put it in the chat that cyber is specifically digital systems which are interconnected. But anything like but if there is any information on paper, that is a part of information security.
Exactly.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so my next question is for Cynthia.
Okay.
Yeah, so COVID-19, like we saw last 2 years, we've been like working remotely. So what are the new threats that have come along with COVID, the pandemic?
I would say that there is, I would hesitate to say new. I would probably say there's a rebalancing of the potency of certain threats. For example, ransomware existed before coronavirus, but given the distributed nature of people and their information systems, it's become a lot more important and a lot stronger way of distributing attacks and gaining revenue for attackers. It is difficult to attack a centralized network and to gain a foothold in a centralized network if everybody's distributed. However, if you make the data and critical systems unavailable, it is so much harder to fix them because the Security Operations Center has to work in a distributed environment as well. So that's one area. Another area, we're seeing a lot more scams for the individual and their families on mobile devices. And so before, you had a smattering of, say, robocalls and things like that that would hit your mobile device. But nowadays, you're getting inundated, not only through social media applications on your mobile device, but also random surveys, cold calls, links that come in chat to your phone number over SMS. And you click on those links and it's a phishing attack. It's still gathering credentials and it's still attacking people where they are. Those are two examples so far.
Great. Yeah. So phishing and then wishing, right? If, what we get over voice, over phone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then smishing on text.
All the issues.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So Janet, would you like to add something to this about
Yes.
how it has aggravated?
Yeah, definitely has aggravated. I mean, Cynthia mentioned a really good point. Ransomware has already started even before the pandemic, and now it has extremely exploded because everybody's working remotely and there's more access to computers, and people who are bored might want to hack. So we have to be really vigilant in keeping on with your patches. I think a lot of vulnerabilities comes from not patching your system. So with the recent exploded with the log.j4 vulnerabilities, that's a huge one. So you want to also keep up with some of the vulnerabilities that needs patching that will help you make sure your system are secure. And as far as you're kind of mentioning about smishing, phishing, and and vishing, there's actually a new one called quishing. Quishing is those QR codes. So be careful about those QR codes. Don't just randomly put, do the QR codes, because they're attacking you that way now too. Yeah, quishing, that's another one.
Phishing.
Mm-hmm.
This is entirely new for me. First time this I learned about quishing.
I think the moral of the story is if you didn't know it was coming, don't touch it.
Yes,
Yeah,
I agree. I second it.
that's right. And I think this is a good time to segue into privacy. Privacy. I kind of with phishing, wishing, I said privacy. But let's talk about privacy. So again, people say that security and privacy go hand in hand, but like, how do security, what is the relationship between two? Is privacy a subset or a superset? So let us know again. Janet, would you like to go first on this question?
Sure. Well, security and privacy do go on hand in hand, because you first need to secure your system in order to even have privacy, right? Without it, it's not going to work. It's both related. And when you're setting up, let's say, social media, your settings, that's part of technology. If you don't set up the correct settings of not share your personal information with whom or who you want to share information with, if you don't set up that right in the first place, you'll violate your own privacy without even knowing it. And I know a lot of folks like my parents, my mom, my grandparents, the older folks who are not as into computer related gadgets and stuff like that, they don't know. But when they're on social media, their information is like everywhere because they don't understand the settings. So their privacy is violated without knowing, because they just check yes and just want to check and get on social media as fast as they can. So just one example. But definitely I would say security, privacy go hand in hand. It's important to have both. And you definitely want to check on your privacy settings all the time.
Thank you, Janet. Cynthia, what are your thoughts on privacy?
I think privacy is a specific description of a set of data and experiences that people have that should be protected in order to allow them the freedom to act and be. The notion of privacy is tied very closely to the notion of identity, and that data is a subset of information. that we would consider for information security. Privacy security is a subset of cybersecurity for that data and those experiences that are happening or empowered or changed while online or on a digital system. And so cybersecurity acts to protect privacy data by having a specific set of controls and protections that are set aside for the guarding and integrity and resilience of a person's identity or their activity protection.
Great. Yeah, and integrity is that we don't allow tampering of patients, anybody's users' data. Like 100 mg of medicine, if that's prescribed, that should not become like 10,000 mg or any financial transaction.
It's even more insidious than that. Consider, if you will, how good we're getting with video editing. Now, imagine if someone were to post a fake video of somebody committing a murder.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
The integrity of that person's identity now becomes tantamount to proving their innocence in a crime where there is believable evidence to the contrary.
Yeah, that's scary. Super scary.
It is scary.
Yeah. Okay, so great. This is great discussion, and I would make sure that there was one question asked by Zahra, and that question is, there are so many service providers. What to look out for when, Zahra, let me know if I'm missing anything. We can unmute you so that you can ask your question.
Yes, my quick question, sorry, I was on mute, was around when we are talking about security, and I am talking to my large banks and payment clients. Some of the solutions we have internally developed, but then we also partner with other service providers. Some of the service providers are the known providers from Dell ecosystem, IMX, Dell, X, CenturyLink, and we have a lot of those big names there too. But then the newcomers in the market are also bringing in best of breed there. And as a result, they're getting acquired by big companies too. What should we be looking out for when we are assessing a newcomer in the market who's bringing in the new security solutions?
I have an opinion on this. And many different people in leadership who make purchase decisions are going to have different opinions. So I know Janet's going to have her opinion as well, and both are going to be equally valid. In my opinion, it's really important to understand a few things about the problem you're trying to solve first. Is it okay if the company that is supporting the problem that you're trying to solve goes away in a year to 3 years, so you can feel safe giving a startup a chance? It's not a flippant question, because some technology problems, it's okay, because there are lots of people in the market, and in 3 years you might decide to do it differently. And in that case, you can evaluate a startup that seems promising. It's a good consideration, in my opinion. The next thing to consider is, do they have the leverage to support the scale of the problem that you're trying to solve? And that rules a lot of startups out for a medium-sized and larger company, but not for a small-sized company or a small-sized scoped project or scaled project. And so that's an important one. And the third one is, do they have a believable technology demonstration that shows the user stories that relate to you? Many startups are really boutique and they solve a problem. And if you are a medium or large size organization, your organization is going to ask for synergies and cost ecosystems where you can manage, you can justify the spend. And for a small company, again, you have more agility in picking solutions, but also you have less money. And so you want to pick a solution that solves a good cross-section of the technical problems or the privacy or information security problems you're trying to solve, and does so reliably and to your particular environment. To me, those are the three things that I would consider before considering a small or medium startup that even looks promising.
Thanks, Cynthia. Janet, would you like to add something here?
That's an excellent point regarding especially whether the company will survive or not. But the trend I'm observing is some of these large banks, when they see new technologies coming up with new organizations, they are including them in their technology hubs, and they are, either acquiring them on their own or asking a service provider to use those technologies. So as a result, the service provider ends up acquiring them. So great point there. Thank you.
Thanks, Zara. Thanks, Cynthia. Janet, would you like to add something here?
Yeah, just real quick. I think Cynthia covered it all, actually. I highly agree with Cynthia, those 3 points that she covered. But another thing I also want to add, you can also consider looking at these stock reports, the service organization control with the external audit. I think audit will be playing a big part. You can have the external auditor, third-party auditor to audit the company just to make sure everything checks out. And once you have a partnership with them, I would say check their SOC 2 report internally if you're able to, just to share between the two of you, just to see if everything checks out. So SOC report is another thing I would add to the list.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions from audience? Please enter them in chat. So we'll take questions for next 5 to 7 minutes, and then after that we'll go in breakout rooms. Correct. I have a question, which is while we are waiting for questions from the participants, I have a question specifically for product owners and business analysts. They write the requirements and specifications for that specific role. How should they start and what should they do to make sure that they have the right knowledge required for their role?
Are you speaking with regards to putting security into their program?
Putting security into the product.
I would highly recommend that they take at least an overview course in whatever area they're working on. So if they're building a software project, I would definitely recommend they take a non-engineer focused cybersecurity class focused on developing applications. And there on LinkedIn Learning, there are several. Coursera has several. There are even certifications like the CISA is this Certified Information Security Auditor. It's a great overview of security best practice and philosophy that's not engineering focused, but has some technical information. It's super valuable to me as a leader, and it would be really valuable to a product owner just to start getting in the mind frame of, well, how does this affect me? How can this affect my product? And it's not a heavy lift to take any of those courses because they're usually short.
Great, wonderful. Janet?
Yes, just adding on what Cynthia mentioned, definitely take a course in LinkedIn Learning. I think is great. I've taken a couple courses from there, from auditing to fundamentals of cybersecurity. You definitely want to have a foundational cybersecurity related language, right? You want to know the terminology so you know what to look out for when you are building a product. And you definitely want to consider security in the very beginning, not the end. Security should be baked in with the product, not at the end, which will be more expensive. So you definitely want to start thinking about security right at the very beginning and take on from there.
Awesome. So yes, start from the beginning. It should not be an afterthought. Security has to be baked in. There is a question that has come in chat. So are Network Plus and Security Plus certifications good thing to have on your resume?
In my opinion, I don't think it's necessary. So I do have a Sec Plus. I did not get the Network Plus, but depending on what you want to do, if you want to go in the technical route, then I would highly do recommend Net Plus and Security Plus. And also depending on what the job requirements are. So for the DoD government defense, we do require Security Plus for a lot of these sysadmin positions, but for entry level may not be necessary yet, but it may have a requirement of, okay, once you are in this role for 6 months, we need you to go and get your Security Plus certification, in which the company will sponsor the certification plus class for you, the Security Plus class for you. So depending on exactly which route you want to go, but I would say Network Plus, Security Plus are more of the technical route. And for those that may not know, ISC Square has come out with the entry level certificate.
Yeah.
That's last week, I believe. So I would
Yes.
say look into that. Mhm.
Yeah, they have come. Yeah, that has come last week only. They have launched it last week. And it's, I think, $200 or $225 only at this point.
That's
To
really
be
affordable. That's good, considering the cost of most certifications.
Yes, definitely.
That's right. And I really like, there are questions coming in. There is one question which is, what are some certifications which an engineer who wants to enter security team? Cynthia?
Yeah, so for my security team, we look at entry level for a security engineer being a little bit higher than Security Plus, because we feel like Security Plus is the minimum level that they would have learned up to an internship and an associate. When we get into the engineering, because it's a lot more broad and it's a lot more fast paced, and it's more than just the equipment. Now it's evaluating human behavior, it's evaluating attack techniques and things like that. We add a SANS course to that entry level engineer level. And so we send our people to get the information hacking and countermeasures course at SANS. And then they take their global information security incident handler course. And we consider that the minimum level for our engineering staff. We usually send them to take that cert though. It's not something we expect them to have coming in, but we test them on their skills and send them to finish out their skills, round themselves out by taking that course.
Perfect. So there's another question. Can you repeat the name of that certification? Bethany, are you talking about the entry-level certification? So if you go to ISC Square, you'll see entry-level certification. I think it's ELCC. Great. Perfect. Yeah, so before we go into breakout rooms, I have one question, and that is between like user experience and security. So what are some challenges you have faced balancing these two? If you could provide some insights on that.
Multi-factor comes to mind.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to go and enter 6 digits. I just want to be able to, I just want it to be able to work. I don't even want to enter a password. Why do I need to have a complex password? A lot of times we feel the same pain because we're subject to the same things. And usability is a flexible term, but in general, it means convenience, and it means fewer steps, and it means more intuitiveness. And it means a person has less time between themselves and the task they intended to do. From a security standpoint, we continuously strive to align under the hood security with a less difficult experience. One of the ways this is really started to come to the fore is in the adaptive MFA in Azure, for example. So Azure Identity has this notion of 15 different elements that they measure that determine whether or not you need to have a MFA or multi-factor authentication push to enter a code or click a button for that matter, depending on how you use it. And so in my mind, in the past, it was a choice. The more secure you are, the less convenient it was, and the less fast it ran. So you could do two things. You could be secure and fast, but totally inconvenient. You could be fast and convenient, but not secure. And you could be convenient and secure, but way slow. Nowadays, it's getting closer, but it's not perfect.
That's right. Janet, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree with Cynthia once again. It's a balance, right? You got to balance both. If you're going to have more of a better user experience, do you want to compromise security? I don't think so, right? But if you want to have a higher security, you might have to just deal with the inconvenience. And just to give an example, in the environment I'm at my work, there's a lot of firewalls, and there's times that we have numerous credentials we have to go through until we finally get to access the application. It is considered inconvenience. User experience is low. Everybody complains about it. But you know what? It's to keep our system secure. You just have to deal with it. You don't want to have a breach, right? That's the last thing you want. So you actually, in the long run, you save money by having that inconvenience. Just think about that.
That's right. Yeah. And it will become a habit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There is a question. It says, I have no IT experience, but have a bachelor's in business management. I have changed careers and returned to school, earning a cybersecurity and assurance degree. I have read a lot of discussion of graduates finding it difficult to find jobs because they lack cyber experience. Do you have any insights that could guide a novice?
Find an internship. They are plentiful. They are often come with mentorship and training, and it gets you, it bridges the gap. If you don't want to do that, a lot of folks that have worked in the field for several years, they're a little loath to take an entry-level position. Another thing that you can do is certifications bridge the gap as well, because it demonstrates skill. So even if you don't have the experience overall in information security, if you have several certifications that are technical, it gets you in the door, and you can pass a technical skills test. You can get a probationary role at your experience level, your overall engineering experience level. There is no shortcut to troubleshooting. There is no shortcut to tribal knowledge, but you can absolutely learn skills. And that's a way to demonstrate the experience that you would otherwise have with time. That's my opinion, of course.
Is there a website to find these internship jobs?
LinkedIn Jobs is one, or careers. There's Indeed. There's several career sites, and most of the organizations in which I've worked and in which my friends have worked post their internships in the same way that they would post a job. So anywhere you would normally search for a job, you can find an internship.
Great. And there is jobs.witi.com. So there are jobs listed there as well. Janet, would you like to add something here especially to answer this?
Definitely. Yeah, besides internship though, I also challenge you to ask yourself in what areas of cybersecurity you're interested in, because there are some that are very typical, like penester testing, black hacker, white hacker, or if you don't want to do coding, there's actually non-technical areas as well, like business planning for disaster recovery, business resiliency, risk management, governance compliance. GRC, I think, which stands for governance risk compliance, is an area I will challenge you to explore, because that's a really good area to start. That's how I actually started. I started as an internal auditor and got involved with GRC. And I just somehow got to know more and more about cybersecurity. And that time I didn't have a Security Plus certificate yet. And also definitely network with the people that is in cybersecurity that are in the areas that you might be interested in. And LinkedIn is definitely a great way to have professional network. For you attending this WITI event, it's already a good way for you to know people. And definitely networking is another great way to get to know what areas of cybersecurity you're interested in, and informational shadowing or informational interview with the folks that might have the job that you think you're interested in, and just planning some time, ask them, do you have any openings? And you have to do your homework, right? Figure out which company that may have openings that you might be interested. And then next to do is to network and see if there's anybody you know or somebody that may know that works there that can maybe perhaps connect you.
Great. This is such an engaging and insightful conversation. I'm having a great time in this conversation. Also, try all this, and if you still feel that there are some issues, reach out to us. Reach out to us on LinkedIn or reach out to us over email. We are here to help you. So now it's time for breakout sessions. So we'll have each breakout room will have 4 to 6 people.